Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. Today we're getting back to work on our guitar build for the Great Guitar Build Off. And in today's video, we're working on the neck. So I think everyone knows this by now, but these projects, the final videos for everyone, are due on September 4th. That's when they're all supposed to be coming out. So book the afternoon because it's going to be interesting. Crimson Guitars actually reached out to everyone in the contest recently and asked if we would all be ready for that date. And I was so tempted to say no, because I know that's Texas Toast Guitar's worst fear. Like, I'm pretty sure they opened up the box and got to work for like 3 full days on this thing the day it showed up. So tempting, but no, can't do that to you guys. September 4th, you should have all of these videos as far as I know. I just wanted to confirm that because I know there has been some talk. I've posted a couple of progress videos and not everybody has, and there's been some talk about people wanting to make sure that they see the process. I'm guessing you're going to see the process from pretty much all of us on that day. The guys from Wonder Bread Guitars have like a professional film crew or something coming in to film the whole deal. So you're going to have a feature-length movie for them. Get your popcorn. I'm going to have all of the stuff that I haven't shown, or well, in this video and the prior ones, will be in that one. So you'll get the full deal from me. Big D, he's posted progress videos, so you can see basically what he's done, and I'm pretty sure he'll have the rest of his process up when the time comes. Dan from Guns and Guitars, assuming he can park his house somewhere with internet, I'm sure you'll get the full deal from him on the 4th as well. And Tamar's been posting some pretty cool practice from 3x3 Customs. She's got some very interesting stuff that she's been putting on Instagram, so I'm really excited to see what she does. I still don't know if Jimmy Duress is actually in the contest. And I've heard that Phil McKnight's having other people do the work on his for the most part. So I'm sure he'll set it up and everything. He's good at that. I don't know if we'll get to see the process for that one. But the finished project should be interesting anyway. Am I forgetting anybody? Crimson Guitars, I'm sure, will post the entire process in what I can only assume will be a 7 or 8 hour video wherein Ben goes at least 20 times. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, let's make some progress here. So today we are going to do the fretwork specifically on this, make sure that everything's nice and comfortable and that the neck is going to play perfectly. It looks great already, but we'll check it all out and we'll do some work to it anyway, even if it doesn't 100% necessarily need it, because Crimson Guitars was nice enough to send me some tools and stuff, and I have my own, of course, and why not? You guys could use another video on this, right? And this is actually a tutorial, which is nice because my video on the 4th really won't be. In the last video on this one, we talked about securing this to the body. So, and it was hilarious. If you haven't seen it, the comments are the most dramatic thing I've ever seen in my life. So what we did is we put in 3 threaded inserts, and this is going to be a literal bolt-on using 1/4 inch 20 thread bolts, which are overkill. Frankly, they're massive for this type of thing. So yeah, that's going to be good. There are 3 of them. Had a few dramatic comments, like I said, from people saying, oh, that's definitely going to rip out. That won't hold your neck. Apparently, they don't realize that there are designs with 2 bolts and 1 bolt, and mine has 3. Now, we did have a hairline fracture at the base of this guy, which I filled completely with super glue. So that's not an issue anymore as far as I'm concerned. We also ran super glue around the edges of these and glued them in with wood glue that's nice and thinly compressed, as it should be. Wood glue isn't great for against metal necessarily, but when it's thinly compressed like that, it does bind. And then I took off the excess glue, the excess super glue, and there we go. To address one guy's comment, yeah, I hope nobody cross threads these because they are not coming out. So yeah, gonna have to be careful bolting into them. Anyway, let's move on to the fretwork. And let's talk about it for a second, and then we'll get right to the demo. So first things first, we need to check that the neck is straight. For that, we have a not straight edge. Crimson Guitars sent me this. I've shown you these. We're gonna be doing some tool shootouts, if you will, some tool comparisons between these and some other companies, other tools. So stay tuned for those, they should be interesting. But to make sure the neck's flat, we simply put the not straight edge on there and look underneath it to make sure there's no light coming through anywhere. This one needs to be loosened. The truss rod needs to be loosened just a hair, and then this will be perfect. One of the nice things about a black not straight edge is that you can easily see if there's any light coming under it without having to worry about reflections coming off the metal. Well, a little bit of bad news. I can't access the truss rod adjustment here with an Allen key. It has bowed in and pushed. Maybe the routing cavity was a little deep there or something. The access hole doesn't quite grant me the ability to get at it to adjust it. And well, that's obviously not going to do for whoever ends up with this guitar. So I have to widen that, which is daunting a little bit. Would have been nice to do that before the whole thing was all set up. But here we go. We're going to widen out that hole a little bit so that I can do the truss rod adjustment, flatten this guy out, and move on. So I'm going to clamp this on here. I'm going to put a little foam pad under it to make sure there's no damage. And I'm going to clamp it down with a radius block on top so that I don't worry about damaging the frets. Use the appropriate radius, of course. If you use one that is too shallow, you can push down on the center of the frets too much, and it's probably not an issue, but there is that possibility that then you're compressing the fret and causing lifting on the corners or something like that. So we're going to clamp it with a radius block. I'm going to put a little piece of shop towel there just to be careful, and there we go. I'm not gonna lie, that one had me nervous. Yeah, heart was beating a little faster than usual there, but it worked. Looks good. We changed the angle of that ever so slightly, but we should now have appropriate access. Perfect. There it is. Just got to loosen that a little 1/8 of a turn probably. Going to just gently push, because sometimes the wood gets a little tension in it and it doesn't release even if you let the truss rod out a bit, so to speak. And now, don't mind me moving the camera, we'll check it again. Ooh, first try, not bad. There we go, perfectly flat. Guys, I really hope that you don't end up having to do that if you're working on a kit, but what it requires is a very sharp drill bit and clamping the neck reasonably sturdy. Okay, it doesn't have to be like dead sturdy, but reasonably sturdy. Don't try and do it by freehand. Slight angle. And that's about it. Just go slow, be careful, check it every few seconds to make sure that you're not running into the actual truss rod. And at the very end, you'll hear and feel a little like tap as it touches it, as the very edge of your drill bit touches it, and then you stop. Simple as that, but not fun. If anybody's got a better way to do that, let me know. I know somebody's just gonna say use a longer drill bit, which I have, and I kind of toyed with the idea and absolutely didn't need it because I still needed that little bit of angle anyway. So, but yeah, if anybody's got thoughts on how else to approach that without pulling off the net or the fretboard or something like that, drop them in the comment section below. I'm curious, and yeah, if you've got information to share, then share it so that my viewers can see it and me. All right, enough rambling. The fretboard is now perfectly flat, so it's time to check that the frets are flat, and we do that with a fret rocker. As you know, if you've been watching my stuff throughout this series, Crimson Guitars has supplied a fret rocker. Again, Very nice. Has the finish on it again and everything. You don't need to be looking under a fret rocker. I'll confirm how to do that. They've also got the end cutoff, which is unusual for fret rockers, but I guess it means that you can use it for a ukulele or a mandolin or something like that. For those who told me when I pointed that out last time that that was for the highest frets, it is not. If you take a look here, it doesn't work. In order for a fret rocker to do its job, it has to bridge 3 frets. This can't. So that's for a different instrument. This one bridges those 3 frets. Lo and behold, they're straight. So the way that this works is you put it across 3 frets and you try and wiggle it. And if it wiggles like that, then we know that there are 2 possibilities. Either this fret, the one in the middle, is high, or one of these 2 is low. And we move on. And you can kind of drag it across and do that because you want to check every area. Okay, so this here, it's not wiggling. Okay, so that guy's a bit low. That's where we're at. And I'll check the rest, but it doesn't really matter. Once you find one that's a little low, you've got to check them all anyway, or you've got to flatten them anyway. Yeah, okay, so we've got 1 or 2 that are a bit low. Let's move on to the leveling process. I mark my frets before I level them. Not everybody does this. Some just look at the frets to see the scratch lines on them, and they go based on that. I prefer to have a mark on there so I make sure that I've taken it all off and that everything is level. And of course I want to take off as little as possible. So I just ideally want to take off the top of that mark on all of the frets. You can tape off your fretboard, and if you're new to this, you should. Tape off your fretboard before you do this. I don't, but you should if you haven't done a whole bunch of these, which I have. So for starters here, I'm just going to simply mark off the tops of the frets. Now this, as much as anything else, is an area where if you're not comfortable with it, you should have your fretboard taped off. Because if you draw on your fretboard with Sharpie, you're going to regret it. It can be removed with acetone, but it's a pain in the butt. Okay, now once we've got that done, we're going to move on to leveling. So I've got some sandpaper here stuck to the bottom of my Crimson Guitars fret leveling beam. And I'm just going to gently, respecting the radius of the fretboard, go over and level this. And I prefer to do this from the top down so that if I'm doing a little bit of extra, it's going to be on these bottom frets because, well, we don't want contact there anyway. So some people actually preach a bit of a further lower leveling on those ones. I don't do that, but I want to keep it even. And if I'm going to have a little extra, like I said, I want it to be at the base there. All right, let's see what we're dealing with. Need a little more right on this edge. And there we go. So I've taken a small amount of the Sharpie right off the top of all of these. Now I'm going to put this away because I don't need it anymore, and I'm going to dust off the top. So now I clean this off. The tops are flat. A small amount of the Sharpie is gone from them. So I'm going to remark them now and crown them. And the reason I remark them is because this time I want to do the opposite. I want to leave just a very thin line of Sharpie on the top when I crown these, because that means I haven't changed the level of the top. So I'll know that they're all still perfectly level. But I want that line to be very thin. I want to take off everything else so I know I have a good intonation point right at the top of the fret. So Crimson Guitars has sent me a fret crowning file and a fret end rounding file. Keep in mind, after you do all of this, you need to round over the ends of your frets to make sure everything's nice and comfortable. It's not the kind of fret crowning file that I generally use. And I find, this is a more difficult way of doing it in my opinion, but it works, and we're going to do it for this one. So let me show you what they sent me. This is simply a triangle file with the ends ground down perfectly smooth so that you don't damage your fretboard. So the way that we do this, very carefully, is we run this along the edge, run the corner along your fretboard, and twist to file up the fret. Now, you don't have to do a twisting motion as you go. You can run it back and forth, change the angle a bit, run it back and forth, change the angle a bit, run it back and forth. Depends on what you're more comfortable with, but the typical method is to twist as you go. The problem here is you have to make sure you're doing it straight, okay? The tendency is to do this kind of banana motion while you're twisting, and you want to avoid that because that'll crown different parts of the fret differently. Don't do that. Now, once again, if you are new to this, you really, really want to make sure you've taped off your fretboard to be doing this. And I don't use these types of crowning files like ever. So I'm going to use some of this Scotch Blue Platinum tape, the kind of rubbery stuff. Do my frets one at a time. It's a little slower than how I usually would approach it, but I'm going to tape them off and just move the tape down. This stuff's kind of rubbery, so it'll last for me to be able to do that. Okay? If you're looking for this, I believe I have some in the Amazon link in the description. So feel free to check that out. It's an affiliate link. Helps me out if you get it from there. I'm going to tape on either side of my fret now. And let's get to work on the crowning. By the way, when Crimson was sending me all these tools, they also sent me this cool Hosco multi-tool. I forget what exactly this is called, but watching Dan and Matt open theirs, I think I'm going to have to do a tutorial just for those guys on how this thing works. You're welcome, boys. It's coming. So there you go, guys. If you're patient, you can end up with some pretty bloody thin lines there. And that's what you're going for. That will be a perfect intonation point for any string on those. So they're all nicely leveled and perfectly crowned. It does take some time, effort, and patience to do it with that 3-corner file, but it's doable. So the next thing we need to do is go in and round over the fret ends, so that's nice and comfortable. We'll do that using our fret end rounding file from Crimson, which is a very small file with a polished edge here. I usually use the Hosco ones that I get from Solo Music Gear, but we'll try it with this guy. And finally, we're going to have to polish the tops of these, and we'll do that using Crimson's fret erasers. Let's get to it. Well guys, that is it. Not quite my preferred method, but pretty damn close and same results, which I can't complain about. Nice and comfortable, fret ends feel great. I don't like to bevel the ends of mine too much. In fact, I don't really like to bevel them at all. I like them just nice and rounded. But these came pre-beveled. So if you do like a beveled fret end and you've got a guitar kit where they aren't beveled off the bat, you will need to address that. There are a few ways to do that. There are set beveling files, of course. You can get, I think Crimson Guitars makes some. You can also get like these ones that are, well, in this plastic. They also have, so this one's got a straight file and a bevel file to get rid of fret ends that are sticking out if there are any, and then bevel them. What I like to do is take my little Skyscraper Guitars fret leveling beam, like my short one, because you don't use the short one for fret leveling very often unless there's a very small area that you need to do something specific to. It's better to use a long one, and I like to use that to do a little bit of rounding if I want to. I would also use that for beveling a lot of the time if I did beveling, if somebody specifically requested it. But like I said, I prefer them nice and round so you don't have to worry about the strings coming off the edge as you're doing bends and whatnot. Anyway, this is looking, yeah, great. As you can see, let me see if I can focus you in a little bit here, although I'm hoping I gave you a nice close-up in the video already. So, all's well with that. And yeah, that's it for this one. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to give it a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe, stay tuned, because this thing is coming to a close pretty quick here. Exciting times. As always, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Have a good one.